Well, welcome everybody. In this webinar, we are following up really on a panelist discussion we had at last COSIN's conference in Seattle, Washington. Um, last year almost, right? It was in, I don't know, March, April, something like that last year. And it was well attended, and they decided to revisit this topic. COSIN did, and they asked us to come on board again. And today we have Frankie Jackson. Let me just go to the next slide here. And I don't know if Frankie, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. It's always easier to talk about yourself than someone else read from it. I'm Frankie Jackson. It's a pleasure to be here. You've got a lot of choices about how you spend your time, so we don't take it for granted when you choose to spend your time with us. I've served as a chief technology officer for 25 plus years, serving primarily districts from, say, 25,000 to about 120,000. And currently, after I left the public education serving as that CTO, I continued to work as a CTO, but at a different level at the state and national levels as a senior advisor and as a trusted technology thought partner. And one of the things I like to say is that I never lose sight of how difficult a CTO or an EdTech leader's position is. I think it's so complex, and I have so much respect for the position. And I've continued to work the rest of my career trying to develop tools in any kind of programs and initiatives that will help CTOs, because I know what it's like to sit in your chair. Currently working as the director of the Cybersecurity Coalition for Education, and I'm very proud of that role. And I think we're doing some really great things. If we have the opportunity, we'll talk a little bit about that. So thank you for inviting me, COSIN, to participate.
Great, thanks. Mac McMillan is here. Mac, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks. My name is Kevin McMillan. I usually go by Mac. I am the administrator for IT for Beaverton School District in Oregon. Mainly, my job is to oversee our physical infrastructure, cybersecurity, and then, of course, whatever else seems to pop in. It seems to always expand. The role always seems to expand, like I think everybody is, that you think you're going to do one thing and you end up doing like 50 other things.
Yeah, and that's my role here in South Windsor Public Schools. I'm the director of technology system and programs. I've been in education now for 27 years. I've been a director of technology for the past, I think 14, I don't know, time flies, 14, 15 years. And things have changed obviously dramatically, and it's just getting faster, the pace of change. So we're just going to share some thoughts that we have on generative AI and cybersecurity today. So with that, I think we're just going to have a discussion base. I put some slides together, but we don't really have to hold fast to the slides, but just to kind of anchor our discussion. So the evolving threat landscape. So I'll ask this question, Frankie and Mac. What's one major shift you've seen in the cybersecurity landscape over the past year or past couple of years?
Most of the time, everyone gives the lady the opportunity to go first, so I'll just jump right on in. I think it's just the propagation of AI tools. I went to FETC a couple of weeks ago, and where many of the conversations were about the typical things of robotics and even cybersecurity. I mean, everything was pretty much dominated by AI and different uses and different tools. There wasn't a lot about cybersecurity and AI, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I think the thing that stands out to me is just even since April, when we presented this session at the COSIN conference, which this is a follow-up to, is just the changes in the speed and the scale, and more than anything else, the believability of cyber risk. Things like, identities are now attackable, and social engineering is of a professional grade, and it's just exploding, and that backed by quantum computing and just the speed. It amazes me every time I use AI, which I use it every day, just to do my job. It's just absolutely shocking at how fast it is. So uh, I think that that impacts cybersecurity risk, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more as we progress through this presentation.
All right, thanks, Frankie. Mac, you have anything to follow up or add?
No, I think Frankie said well. I think it's the speed at which it's happening that it's making it a lot easier for criminals or even just, with us, with students being dumb and being able to go out and do things very easily. It's changing it from an organization having to do something to, Joe with generative AI now, Joe Blow off the street can pretty much become a cyber criminal or just do it for fun. It may not even be, trying to get money or anything like that. It's just about having fun or kids getting mad at each other. But it's happening at such a fast rate and new sites are popping up and it's making it so quick and easier that from a cybersecurity side, it takes so long for things to catch up that the threats just keep coming and coming, and us as professionals or even our vendors are having a hard time keeping up because it's changing. Just when you think you're about caught up, the whole landscape changes again, and you've got to reassess how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah, and I'll just say I responded to a parent emailed me concerned about because we're one-to-one take home with
Mhm.
Chromebooks grades 6 through 12, and they were concerned about just filtering in general or just gaming websites, things like that. We do our best. We have filtering in place for firewall, whatever, but it's whack-a-mole. It's
Mhm.
it's almost impossible to keep up. You keep up as best you can, and I think for us, for CTOs and directors of technology out there, it's more about communicating that out and the expectations of your constituents, of your stakeholders. Communicating that it's not a perfect system, and that we do the best we can, and we provide the most cutting edge tools. I think that we do in our district, but even with those, it's difficult to mitigate all of the threats that are out there. So if the internet slows down, just it affects business, and affects learning, things like that, and it could be one student on a phone trying to DDoS attack within your own network or something like that. So it's just a constant battle. But I mean, so, and like you said, Mac, too, with generative AI, anybody can vibe code. Anybody can. It's kind of more frictionless now, and it's good in a way. I had a discussion this morning about how we used to do graphic design. And graphic design, we used Photoshop, but we had to teach Photoshop. That was I was a teacher at the time. This is years ago, and I had to teach Photoshop. And Photoshop was a semester-long class just to do like movie posters, stuff like that. And now you just put an idea in there, and in Canva or an Adobe product or another vendor, an AI comes up with the image, and so flip that to nefarious purposes, and you just have to describe what you want, and something a half-baked app comes out that could threaten your network. So those are the things that the frictionless goes both ways. Yes, we want AIs making learning and actually doing things more frictionless. On the other hand, it's also doing things that are untoward more frictionless as well. So I think we had just put this slide together. I don't know about that robot over there, but some of the things, the new reality, intelligent phishing. I don't know, Frankie or Mac, about intelligent phishing. What have you seen recently that's come across as something in your organization, in your school system that has been more alarming to you?
Well, I think one of the things that is alarming for those of us that have been working, trying to combat, you know, AI, cybersecurity, you know, with AI, we used to could be able to tell by the language of, say, maybe a phishing attack. It didn't look professional. Maybe there might even be, some poor grammar. But now with AI, you can, spiff up the text and make it completely professional and put in all of these, different types of examples that catch maybe the social engineering piece of it for the human on the other side. So I think these AI generated messages they're more polished, they're more personal, and they're more context aware, and they can be done by anyone, even someone that might not have the English writing skills. I mean, that's one thing. I think it's the just the outpacing of what the technology is just outpacing what humans can deal with. So it's the burnout. There's a long list, and so I think from a leadership perspective, it's really about how do we create more clarity, and if there's not enough time, it's just like in anything that we do, we have to prioritize and then uh, determine next steps, maybe measure progress. In this world that we live in, where the threat landscape is just evolving daily. You can't get it all done. So how do you prioritize and focus on what you can with the staff that you have? And I think that's one of the greatest challenges.
Mac, have you
Yeah,
seen anything recent? Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I think we have seen a change in, like you said, the way the phishing emails come through. They are getting a lot more professional because you can easily create a template. I mean, if you ask ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, any of them to, create a phishing email, it's obviously going to tell you no. But if you tell it you're trying to create a training simulation for your staff, it'll generate one out for you. I did it about a couple months ago for a presentation to principals I was doing. Um, I wanted to kind of create one, a fun one to do, and it generated it out, and I didn't have to change nothing. And we've seen some come in recently that were they were AI generated forms. The first one came in and it was kind of easy spot because they forgot to take out the brackets around, name, stuff like that. And it was funny because we got that one in. It came to our business office. Luckily, somebody caught it because they were trying to extort money. So I wrote up a bunch of stuff for our CIO to present to cabinet on these are the things people need to watch for. 2 weeks later, we got another one, and almost everything that I put in there that hey, this was like it was name, it was missing an email for the superintendent, a couple little things, everything, almost every single thing that I put on there was corrected in the second one. And I was like, oh, this is kind of scary. Did they get a hold of my document and where I said, hey, you need to fix these kind of minor things? But it's making it quicker and easier. And I think the same thing with social engineering. Last year, we saw a huge update taking calls from our help desk, principals trying to get their passwords reset, which obviously weren't our principals. And I would say those ones were very generic because they weren't trying. You could tell it was a call center in India. You could hear the background noise, and it definitely was not our people. And we unfortunately know our staff. But now with the way you can record somebody's audio for 2 minutes, I mean, take for instance this: we're going to talk for over 2 minutes. Somebody could get a recording of us and use that to impersonate us. Not at a great quality level, but enough that if they called somebody that didn't really know us, if our help desk didn't really know us, they could probably spoof it enough to get our password changed or to tell our staff to do something. So it's a constant evolving where our staff are constantly having to adapt. It can't be something where we're just, yep, we trained last year, we're good. It's a constant send out notes of, hey, this is what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's getting cheaper and faster, and what I've seen recently is more of gift card scams, meaning they're trying to get it off network. So
Mhm.
they will impersonate, not even impersonate, they'll just make like principal@gmail.com,
Mhm.
and they'll make a fake Gmail account. Well, no, it's a real Gmail account, get it by Google's filters, and then they'll start emailing staff, hey, do you get a second? And then the staff, of course, they see their boss and they want to respond, and they have a call me at this number or respond, and they want them offline, off our network, and then they can use, their cell phone number to call them up, and then try to get, gift card numbers, get them purchase gift cards. So I've known a couple people, not in this district, but in other, um, I won't call them out, but who actually have gone to the store ready to buy gift cards and then said, what am I doing? What am I really doing? That was someone actually close to me. And, it can happen to any of us. In fact, the other week, another district, someone was, their account was hacked. So they used SharePoint to share a student document, and everything looked legitimate. But when you clicked on the PDF, it went to like luckily the filters caught it, but it was trying to go to some cannabis website. So it was like, oh, you look at when you hover over your mouse and it shows you the
Mhm.
URL it's trying to go to, but everything looked legitimate. In fact, everything was legitimate because it was a hacked account. That's a legitimate email account. And so, those are the things. There, no mistakes, no nothing. Just trying to something that you can't really uh, uh, tell right off the bat, like Frankie said. There's no misspellings, nothing like that. So, I think that is something that we're trying to train staff on, and the social engineering piece too. That's basically like if they wanted to copy someone's tone in emails, or they wanted to impersonate somebody, like again with like a Gmail account, it's very easy to do and just cause havoc among your the people in town. So it's just it's all cheery here, I guess, right now, but that's the state of the world. Um,
I
and
guess
that
the thing
leads,
that,
go ahead,
yeah,
Frank.
I was just going to say, in a school district environment, it you almost have it takes to move a mountain sometimes takes way too much time. So this whole idea, I like this whole conversation about outpacing, that the speed of the threat is just outpacing what we can handle. And so these incidents evolve, which require a response. It requires training, policy updates, possibly, maybe even board approvals. That typically in school districts is a time consuming cycle, and we just can't keep up. And I just I think in some way we've got to figure out how to get things done quicker, to put ourselves in a better position. And I think another conversation, and we'll probably get to it later on, is just this whole idea of governance, and having very, very strict policies and oversight, and uh, risk management strategies and roles and responsibilities, who can do what, is just so important to that. It's also a contributor.
Yeah, and we have one of the things that has changed since last year. I think more we've seen it in our state, in our country, in our school district, things like that, are the deep fake apps, the Nudify apps. That I think there was a report out. They counted 55 of those deep fake apps in I think the App Store both Android and Apple app stores. And I think they work to take some of those down. But the fact that generative AI image creating apps are so easily made and so easily out there, that that that's the change that I've seen in the past year. It's just how easy it is for students to basically bully other students
Mhm.
or bully teachers or things like that using those free apps out there that are basically almost vibe coded and then taken down quickly in something else and some of them are Chinese. um, and the bad part about that is the data retention policies of the Chinese government. So if it's a Chinese app and someone uses that Chinese app here, then that data is in China. And if it's someone's, unfortunately, like a fake nude picture or things like that, that is out there, there's nothing we can do to try to take that back. And that's what I've seen the past, year. That's the most concerning with generative AI. In kind of it goes a little bit with the cybersecurity, but the fact that they can mimic teachers and students and things like that. I haven't, Mac. I haven't heard. There was one example I think of voice. I think it was in Baltimore. I think there was. It was two administrators or one administrator against another administrator that they used the fake voice basically um, to do something that they shouldn't have done. But I haven't heard as much as that. But I think it's a little bit harder to do synthetic voice. There are 11 labs and things like that, but to actually, you have to a little bit, at least right now, you have to know a little bit of the technical skills of to try to do a specific person's voice rather than like a celebrity's voice. That's easy to do. However, the image, there are apps out there for anybody can do it because you don't need any technical know-how whatsoever, just downloading the app. So that's probably the main concern that I've seen through the deepfake threat to basically education. I don't know what you've seen or you've seen it in your district or heard about it in your state.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I think voice is still coming a little bit more because it does take a little bit longer to get a quality voice. I think it's about when Hey Gen came out, it was about you had to upload like a 3 to 5 minute video to get a good quality digital avatar, which actually, if you work on it, actually is really good. But if you're just trying to catch somebody on the phone that may not necessarily, like you're calling a help desk I think in education, it doesn't hit quite as hard because we're so small that we know a lot of our people
Yeah.
throughout the district, even as a mid-sized to larger district. We still kind of know a lot of our people. And you can tell, like, when we had the principals, fake principals calling in trying to reset their MFA, it was clear that, you know, we know these people, they've been in the district a long time. But if it's a new principal, you may not have known. Or if our help desk was fully detached, they would know. So for those you can, but I think, like you said, I think the biggest thing we're seeing with deep faking right now is I don't wouldn't necessarily say it's a cybersecurity thing, but it is the bullying where we're getting a lot of students doing the deep fakes on, like you said, putting kids' faces on nude pictures, making fake videos of principals doing something or staff member, a teacher made them mad. So they make a fake. And the problem is like you said, once they're out there, even if it's taken down quickly, somebody's probably grabbed a screenshot of it and it circulates so fast. We've had a couple incidents of students struggling because some of, you know, a fake nude picture of them was getting around, which then it turns into, now we've got students dealing with suicide and other stuff like that. It is kind of a cybersecurity risk, but at the same time, I don't think it's really approached to the point yet where it's actually really affecting, our cybersecurity. When we think of a traditional cybersecurity of, trying to access accounts or financial stuff like that.
Yeah, and some like on this slide too. I mean, there's some things that just to implement that we've done in our district too, just MFA. I
Hmm.
know there are a lot of districts out there that haven't done MFA yet. Um, but we've done that more recently actually, but for everybody, because it's really with a mid-sized or large districts, it's difficult to do to get everyone on board, especially when you have like paraprofessionals who really are only here during certain hours, and people have different access rights, things like that. Um, but like with the business department, like you said, Mac, you should every IT director should know their business department and know the people in
Hmm.
there. And then make sure that there's basically protocols for financial transactions to do nothing online without verifying and calling up the bank and calling up people that you know. Things like that, that protocols in place that really can help you. And then inconsistencies, sometimes you just share funny things out there. I like to use some humor. And you share like it's kind of like what doesn't make sense out of this, and use generative AI to come up with some sort of story and like a flyer or something, and what's the inconsistency here? What wouldn't you do? And then of course deploy AI detection tools. And there's lots of ones out there that we use a couple as well, but those are some of the things that we've done. I don't know if you want to add to that or.
I guess, when I'm listening to you, I agree with you, and I love how you put like some things to consider implementing and do that when you can. But from a leadership perspective, this isn't go to a conference, get some information, attend a webinar, learn some things. It's not a checklist or a one and done kind of thing. I think it's a continuous improvement type of a model, and so I think navigating cybersecurity in this age is really, it necessitates really looking at it from a continuous improvement and helping districts build. We talk about culture till we're blue in the face, but building a culture of security and safety and privacy, and establish, again, those governance controls and improve year after year, and continuing to focus on it and get better. It just has to be kind of at the top of what we're thinking about. And I think sometimes that's hard to do. Um, if you were to look at things that we could do, for example, under governance roles, responsibilities, and authorities, those are leadership oversight structures that are in place that could easily be spelled out so that it's not just a story, or it's not just an incident that occurs. It's a process with developing those roles and responsibilities, and making sure that they're clearly defined, and holding people accountable in that realm of what is acceptable and what isn't, because we're all connected, and one issue by one person can cause a lot of harm. And so all of that, I think, from a governance and leadership perspective, is key.
Yeah, and I think it's, a lot of people think cybersecurity is IT's role, which it technically does fall under our role because we, push out a lot of the policies and software that helps us, prevent major cybersecurity attacks. But it's about getting your staff to understand that cybersecurity doesn't happen. I can have all the tools, all the software, all the policies, but if we're not teaching our staff how to spot things, how to do things, it doesn't matter how many things we have in place. All it takes is one person to click the wrong link and we could be hosed. So it's about helping them understand that they are a part of cybersecurity. And I think where we've gained a lot of traction is trying to show them how that is relating it to them personally versus from a district level. Talking like when we implemented MFA I think it's 4 or 5 years ago now. We got the standard pushback from everybody. Well, if you're going to want me to use my cell phone, then you're going to pay me, I need a stipend for it. But when we really started talking to staff, it's like, do you use it on your bank account? Do you use it on, everything you log into is now requiring you to do MFA. This is the exact same thing. And this is why not just, okay, we need to protect students' data, we need to protect the district. It's what data do I have of yours? And that's what you're trying to protect is if your account gets hacked and then they use that to hack somebody in the business office or something like that from an internal threat, now they have access to your social security number, your financial data, because we house all those in our ERP.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and I think later on we'll get into like what's really effective security awareness training. I think that's the important thing because I think in the K-12 realm and maybe in the university realm as well, but not so much in the business realm, is we're dealing with teachers, at least in Connecticut, that are working 186 days
Mm-hmm.
out of the year. And of those days, they're prepping to teach. And professional development is, it's gold to have that time for that. So I think later on we'll get into more of the what's really effective in the school system, but that's the difficult thing that we have that I think is different from a corporate where they could just say you're doing this training no matter what, whereas we have to like negotiate time to do this thing. It's like it to get people all on board. It's a little bit more difficult. So we'll go over some strategies in a little bit on how to do that effectively in a K-12 district rather than in the corporate world where you do this training or else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't have as much of a stick in the K-12 world. It's more of a collaboration piece. But before we've went over some of these things before, I think real world examples. I will go over. We've gone over voice calls, text message campaigns, but one of the things that I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen, but I've heard some other people too, are fake invoices and physical deliveries. It's crazy. It's like we've gotten packages and they're cheap, cheap goods, and then an invoice for them, and they want us to establish some sort of PO. It's crazy. It's like where did this come from? And I think it was like some sort of candy, and I'm like, do we eat this candy? Can we pass out
Probably.
this candy? Because the candy looked legitimate, but I never heard of it before. And it was like, something like with the fake invoices or really, and the physical delivery with an invoice, that really that caused pause. And we got it in
Mm-hmm.
our office too. But they wanted to establish some sort of legitimate connection with us. And so that's something that I've never seen and I've seen it the past couple of years. So I don't know anybody watching this webinar. You get this strange delivery, and it might be candy that you never heard of or whatever, and they have an invoice in there, and they want to establish a relationship. So that's something I kind of threw in there because something we can talk about AI and we can talk about text messages, and I think people know about the gift card scams, things like that. But that's something that was new to me. Um, but we can go right into a next slide is about what we've been sort of talking about. Humans remain the weakest link. It's not the hacker who's coming in, to our systems and like causing the ransomware as much as it's the humans that are among us causing the not causing the damage, but letting the damage come in. So that's something that we can kind of speak to.
I think
Yeah,
the
I think
first,
Go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead. I was just going to say, in Texas especially, we have, Houston ISD that has 250,000 students down to small rural areas that might have, 200 students. And so the disparity between the type of technology tools that are used for training. For example, uh, awareness and training in Protect. And even in your previous slide, you said detection tools. There's many districts that don't have the kind of detection tools that, say, a mid-size or a large district. So again, it really falls on the one person that might be in technology to help train and bring those humans along. And I think there are trends that show that there are many cybersecurity attacks on those smaller districts, and I think that's extremely unfortunate. Um, so we're kind of all caught in this budgetary limitation, if you will, and so trying to develop tools that are free, inexpensive, that will help districts is a passion, I think, of mine. And from an association perspective for COSIN, I think it is with them as well. And I think that's where we need to move our associations, and some of our priorities is finding what we can do to help everyone get better. And also with the companies that provide services. We had the Secure Design Pledge that came out in 2023, if you'll remember that is putting the onus back on the service providers and our strategic partners that work with school districts. Have them help us develop better products, better training programs, and at a reasonable cost. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and I think, we always look at, I think humans are always the weakest link because, if you send something to a teacher or something like that, you know, involving helping someone, they're always, I would say 99% of our staff is always wanting to help somebody. And if they see somebody in need, they're going to do it. And like you said, Doug, a little bit earlier, that, their time is they're running left and right with the amount of stuff they're dealing with in classrooms, and then trying to prep and other stuff they have to do, that they see that they want to act quickly because they want to be, help, that it's about how do we communicate with them. And I think we talked about, low cost solutions, because I think we're all facing budget deficits and budget crises. I know we are. We're facing some serious budget crises coming up. But it's about how, and managing what are those tools we can afford and what are those tools we can't. I think one effective way is, communicating out things that you see, getting that information out to your staff. And I know here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a regional group that we talk all the time. And, when somebody sees something that's happening at their district, we communicate that out just so that they may not be able to afford a lot of the fancy tools that maybe are able to afford, but at least if we can start sending out stuff that, hey, we're seeing this. I remember last year when we started, right before those principal phone calls started, it was like 2 weeks before that. I saw it on one of our group threads that Seattle Public was getting a lot of those calls, and I passed it on to my help desk. I'm like, hey, we're seeing some of this, and like literally 2 weeks later, they're getting those kind of phone calls. So it was something that they were already on heightened alert for before it even happened. And it didn't cost us anything, which was, it was something we were able to get heightened awareness to our staff that might be receiving this stuff, and it was free. So stuff like that is always helpful.
Yeah. I think these low cost products and services should be held at a high standard. They should still be built with high level of integrity and quality with real value. Not an inexpensive product that does 30% of what these other products can do. And I know vendors, our strategic partners, have to make money, but at the same time, public education needs their help.
Yeah, and we getting back into like what the human side too. The slide basically effective security awareness training, and I think like Mac, you said, it's really talking to other people, letting them know. That's it's the relationships that you have. Like we have a listserv in Connecticut that you know anybody can ask questions of, and people respond, and like any threats are out there, they put on the listserv. So that is extremely helpful to us. And I think getting back to staff training and how difficult it is for in K-12, because again, professional development is really, it should be about instruction and teaching and learning, and not so much, don't click on this link. Unfortunately, though, you have to have it, like you have bloodborne pathogens, things like that. So some strategies that we've done here is try to use humor and storytelling. So when people will read my emails and not like be boilerplate language. So I'll use words like nefarious ne'er-do-wells. Yeah, and people remember that stuff. They'll say, "Wow, where'd you get that? Nefarious ne'er-do-wells?" And I was like, "I think it's from Hamlet or something. I don't know." But stuff like that where you can use a little bit of humor, and people like scammers don't really use humor. It's more about fear and immediacy in their emails. That's one way to do it, to establish the human connection. And also, years past when we didn't have as good a spam filter, when phishing emails got in and they reported to us, they would get a Swedish fish candy in interoffice mail. Or during COVID, we actually mailed them to people because that was really important to us. So, and that went a long way of establishing, hey, hey, we trust, we're not going to get in trouble here. And so so a lot of times it's like, yeah, we know that's a phishing email, thank you, but it doesn't matter. They're establishing a relationship with us. They're sending it saying, hey, I think this is phishing. And we want to kind of reward that behavior as well. So it's more of on the positive end of things, because really in education you can't, rarely are people like punished for clicking on a link. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, my bad.
Mhm.
It's more about establishing, like Frankie said, about a culture in district, which is difficult to do when you have a lot of staff change hands. You're a larger district. When you have 30 or 40 or 50 or maybe 100 teachers new every year, which is kind of difficult to do. But however, I think the stories kind of create that kind of personalization, and that people think of our office as like human, and not so much, hey, I just want to be behind a computer and not deal with anybody. So I think that's sort of like what we talked about, the culture. So I don't know if you've done anything, Frankie, in the past, or Mac in the past, to either reward people or something that they've uh, that you've done to try to establish that kind of culture.
Yeah, so a couple things we've done is we have moved for our some of our like fishing training. We've moved to a program that does adaptive fishing training. So it is personalized, based on your level. So it's not like, a teacher getting a real heavy cybersecurity one that they're not going to understand the context in it. So it's down to their level. But a lot of some of what I've seen with some of the newer companies that are coming out is like leaderboards. Which honestly, when we first launched ours, I was actually a little worried about it, that people were going to be upset about it. But it actually turned into something really good that, because people want to beat other people. I love to tell the story because my CIO's daughter works at one of our schools, and she loves to send us screenshots when she's above her dad on the leaderboard, which is great. It's fun. It actually provided some fun entertainment. But I think one of the other things I also started doing was when people were finding big threats, we were sending that out, kind of like you were talking about the Swedish fish, but we were sending out that communication, like, let in cybersecurity, a lot of what happens is the only things that come out in cybersecurity is when something bad happens. And we don't necessarily say who did it, but that's the only time we really talk about cybersecurity is when something bad happens. But we tried to change the narrative of, hey, let's celebrate that, this person just caught this phishing email that came through was an invoice. Let's celebrate that and make sure that they know, all the cabinet knows, and cabinet's going up to them, and, superintendent's going up and thanking them that they caught this, and getting that out to all our staff so that they can see that, hey, people are catching this, and it does a couple things. It shows that, hey, these are kind of attacks that are coming through, makes more awareness, but it also shows that, hey, we're celebrating people when they do something good. And people love to be, it doesn't have to be anything big, like I said, the Swedish fish, just a personal note. It makes people feel good that they realize that, hey, I saw something that didn't look right. I reported it, and I saved the district. Could be money, could be an account compromise, could be some, you name it. So I think just those little things, especially because we're going back to talking about, how we can do this at a lower cost, but it's those simple things that we can do that make staff feel appreciated, and it doesn't cost us anything except maybe, like I said, a couple dollars for a Swedish fish goes a long way.
I guess the other thing that comes to mind is the just the whole idea of going back to these products and services that are being offered and that are being purchased. Many of the higher end products have built-in organizational structures so that if you are, I hate to use the term, an abuser, then the reports will indicate that you have, a higher level of clicks. It's called the click list. Maybe veering off and doing things that maybe you shouldn't do, and clicking on inappropriate areas of the job that they normally wouldn't do. So this whole idea of getting the very best products to help supplant what you could do from a human perspective in the technology department, I think is key. Because there's a huge difference in what products are available.
Yeah, and I put on the like moving toward like what can you do for defense for AI
Yeah.
as well. Um, some of the things like you said, AI driven detection, email security, obviously getting the right vendor that you respect and know about for to really secure your email workflow and network monitoring too. Um, and I put large districts and small districts, but not even large districts are I don't know if they have dedicated security teams either. Um,
They do.
yeah, so like large, it's just like we don't have like a dedicated security. We're not that large here. Um, but so we have to kind of offload some of the things that to other vendors. But it's one of those things where you're balancing uh, the economic costs of bodies like here, like in seats, employees versus paying for a vendor to help you out with cloud security. And then I think just and we can we don't have to follow the slides at all. I'm just guiding some of the immediate actions your district. The zero trust. I think Frankie, you spoke to having really policies in place.
Mhm.
Um, so zero trust is one of those things that you should have in your district. And I don't know if Mackie, you want to speak to anything about zero trust or multi-factor. And I know you did that 4 years ago. You were ahead of us, I think, when you did MFA. Um, how difficult was it? I know you mentioned implementing MFA for you, and you got some pushback. We got some pushback too about our phones. Yeah, not our phones, but people's phones. But how difficult and how long of a process was it for you to implement MFA?
It took me about a year and a half. Every time I thought I had solved every thing that our bargaining associations brought up, a new wrinkle came in. So it was a challenge to figure out how we can implement it knowing we had to, which I can tell you, it has saved us. I don't know how many times we get account compromises, but they can't get past MFA, so we've been protected. But it just password sprays, those seem to be coming like every other day now, if not every day of every minute of every day. But it was about, like I said, it was about making it personal for them and then, figuring out where we how we do it. So one of the approaches I took, which I think helped get us through, was we made the determination that if you're on our network using our device, which I control both of, that we're not going to enforce MFA. So if you're on our network with our device, which we use machine certs off our devices to connect to the network anyway, that there's still a risk, obviously, but the risk was not that high compared to the impact it would have to instruction if in the middle of, middle of teacher teaching, they got to go find their phone to re log back in with MFA because the timeout just happened. So I think that was a win for us. Now, if they're using their personal device on our network, they still have to do MFA. If they're using our device off network, they still have to do MFA. And that kind of solved the problem because now if you technically did not want to use your personal phone to log in with to create that MFA, technically you don't have to, but you're confined to only using our device on our district network, which, I would say maybe 1 to 2 people that we may still have an outlier, but I think at that point, it was more of an inconvenience for everybody. And we did it right at the end of the school year. And was basically I think it was the day after the teacher contract ended, we flipped the switch. We gave everybody like 3, 4 weeks notice, kept reminding them this is going to happen. And if they wanted to use their laptop over the summer, which, we know a lot of our teachers use it for, some personal stuff on top of district stuff that, if they wanted to access it, they had to do MFA, and it kind of solved itself at that problem. But it did take, a little bit of compromise on our part, but, it's about where is the bet, balancing security and convenience. And also, our biggest thing was how do we not impact instruction with this, which was our main focus.
And I don't know, Frankie or Mac, we've only done this a couple times. Not the huge fan of the phishing simulation test as much as more about I don't want to play the gotcha game, but it could be done in a not as much as a gotcha, I guess. But did you have any experience doing like a phishing simulation or test?
It was all about a gotcha game. If you're working in a prestigious district of 120,000 students, I mean, I hate to say it like that, but of course, we had the funding to buy one of the premier products that had all of the reporting that I spoke about earlier to pinpoint reports that go directly back to the supervisor in the event that there seems to be an abuser and disciplinary action associated with a repeat abuser because there's just too many to ignore. And so, in a smaller district, I guess that sounds a little bit more harsh, but in a larger district, it really comes down to, uh, keeping the network safe and doing whatever you need to do and have to do to keep that network up 100% of the time. That was the success factor that we were working under in a district that large. And I think there's a lot of districts that are held to that level. So you've got, I personally think you've got to get away from, in Texas, we call it the good old boy system that, it's like, these are the rules. This is the governance. You will participate in, we call them training campaigns, and they were sneak attacks that you showed up on a list and say, I don't know about you, but if I'm busy at work, I don't have time to click and get a gift card from Starbucks or any other coffee shop. I just don't have time. I mean, if I'm clicking on something that is like, if I get sucked into the social media end of it, it's like, well, you got too much time on your hands. So it sounds pretty harsh, but I think that's kind of where we are. It's that culture of, you've got a job to do and stick with your role and responsibility and don't venture outside of that. It's too risky.
Yeah, so we're doing continuous phishing campaigns. Like I said, the program we're using is adaptive for each person, so it's not you know, the ones we used to use where we sent out the same email to every single person.
Mhm.
And then of course one person knew it and then shared it out to everybody that, hey, this is what it is, don't click on it. So I think we found it, and it does a little micro training right after, so it's not long, it's not punitive, but we also use that same reporting button for if you see a real phishing or a real email. So we're trying to train our staff that no matter what, if you think there's something suspicious about it, whether it be one of our phishing emails that we're sending out or whether it's something real, that they're clicking that same button. And we're just trying to train our staff that if you see something suspicious, click that button, we'll evaluate it, and then that way we're protecting. And we've actually seen over the last year and a half, we've been doing it for 3 years now. Over the last year and a half, especially, we've seen a large uptick of people actually reporting real emails, which is obviously our goal is reporting real emails that are suspicious, which I think has helped us a lot.
Yeah, and we have just like 3 minutes left. I just put the path forward. We don't really have to read the slides. So just this more of a free for all. Anything that you want to add, feel free. So Frankie, anything that comes to
You know,
mind, go
I,
ahead.
I, gue- I guess my closing thought, because we have a highly esteemed group and looking at those that are participating, is that, the districts that will probably be able to thrive in the future aren't the ones maybe that have the biggest tools, the biggest budgets, or the most advanced technologies. It will be those that have a very disciplined governance, and those that share that culture of responsibility and accountability. And I think most importantly, a clear roadmap for continuous improvement and strategic planning. I always like to say, cover your ask, ASK, because as an ed tech leader, it's really all about, measuring where you are and determining where you need to get to, along with the tools, the people, the processes that you need in place so that you can effectively keep the district safe, uh, and mitigate risk. And if it is that the upper leadership doesn't buy into that, you've done the very best that you can by putting it out there, by saying, this is what I need in order to manage and lead this district that we're charged with, and the staff and students, because it's our credibility is on the line as ed tech leaders. So that's what I my parting words.
Mac, you have anything to add or?
Yeah, I would say, I think that second bullet always hits something I always think about is how do, investing in our people and how do we make it relatable to them? Because if they have buy-in from the bottom to the top, if we have that buy-in from the whole district, that's what's going to keep us safe, is we've got to get the buy-in from everybody. Because I can implement all the tools I want, but if we're not getting the buy-in from everybody, from our bus drivers and custodians to our superintendent, then we're leaving ourselves vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks for joining today. This is a great discussion. Thanks, Mac. Thanks, Frankie. If you have, I think this will be recorded and posted on the COSIN website for posterity, so anybody can basically view this recording. I think Jill mentioned about a podcast as well. I believe, Frankie, right? So I appreciate everyone, all the attendees out there, and I hope you have a great day and stay warm if you're in the polar vortex, and if you're not, have a great day. All right.